Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. And how about those Philadelphia Eagles? Great day for Ken. It's not a huge day for the brand, but a great day for me. So, cheers to that. Not too much specific model value in the NBA and college basketball tonight, but Jake is happy to answer any of your questions in the chat. So keep the questions coming. We'll bring in the guys. Let's start with some of the NFL games we weren't able to talk about yesterday. Starting with Kansas City, now going to Vegas. Kansas City laying 9. Do we have any value here?
Yeah, we don't have any model value. The last I checked, the unders is as predicted steamed under because of Kansas City's inability to score a point in the second half and Vegas's renewed defense. So just so the Chiefs are only averaging 19 on the road. The Raiders defense, they got propped up by 2 games versus the New York teams, but they are only allowing 14 at home and playing, very good defense with Antonio Pierce coach. And so, our model line is exactly where the consensus is for this one.
Okay. Moving on, another game we can now talk about. The gauntlet just continues for Philadelphia, now hosting the Bills. Maybe they're not as scary as they used to be, though.
Yeah, Buffalo is going to beat a below average team by 25 or more. I think they've done that 4 times. And unfortunately, they're 4-7 against the spread because when they play someone who's 500 or better, they usually they don't cover certainly, and they lose. Meanwhile, Philadelphia, it's interesting. When I processed the stats from last night, our actual power ranking went down slightly for Philadelphia in terms of percentage because the stats they accumulated were actually poor, 150 passing yards and whatnot. But they are showing the narrative is building that this is a team that can beat everyone with their C game. The question is, will they ever play a B or A game? But they can beat everyone. They have some ridiculous record. I want to say 13 in a row against winning teams, or something, not including the playoffs or the Super Bowl last year. So it's like, so the question is, will they play a C game? The model likes Philadelphia because, again, the regression to the mean for Philadelphia is not going to appear on the record, but it will appear in the stats. And so we have Philadelphia at -5, and we like steam on the over because we like Philadelphia to score over their team total. And it has gone up from 47.5 to 48 everywhere. I think we'll go up to 49.
Okay. So the Eagles have a +61 point differential, even though they're 9-1. I saw that in the HQ research tab. That's the 3rd worst of any team in history that's been 9-1. So, but a lot of it's a testament to their tough schedule, and they're just grinding out these wins. They find a way to win.
Yeah, I think I can't remember the exact stat now, but something about Jalen Hurts, his record against top teams is the best in NFL history.
Yeah, it's just
I will find that to specify that. But anyway, all right. Any questions about, again, NBA, Maction, college basketball? Happy to answer in the chat. But today we're going to break down a little bit of a futures moment. We're going to talk some college football playoffs, a lot of interesting situations now that Jordan Travis is injured. Kind of tough to see him as confidently in this picture as we did initially a few weeks ago. But before we get into the picture, a big part of what this will be this weekend's matchup, Ohio State versus Michigan. Michigan laying 3.5 at home. Some books 3, opened up at 4, but we saw some steam go to Ohio State. Jake, clearly we have some value on the over here. What do you think makes the model think that?
So if you just look at the basic overall stats, the model doesn't take into account that JJ McCarthy's thrown the ball 15 times, and it does take that into account, but you're not expecting McCarthy to only throw 15 times in 2 games. Especially also Ohio State put up 35 against a pretty good Minnesota defense. Michigan was able to score against Maryland. They're putting up good stats, but then when you put them against each other together, I downgraded this A pick on the over because I agree with the public, and I think that's why there's steam on the under, because if you just watch the games, you'd think this is an under game, but if you just look at the model stats, take this as an over game. And like Derek just said in the chat, Rowan Wilson, he had, I think it was a concussion. He got hit in the head. It was a targeting penalty.
I didn't watch as close as I should have, but when they gave up 24 to Maryland. Mm-hmm. Despite, Maryland not being able to run the ball at all, was that just look ahead? They were kind of, not.
It was, they pretty much played not to lose rather than to win the game.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the model kind of looks into allowing that many points to a team like Maryland and thinks that they will allow the
That combined with Ohio State scoring 35, 38, and 37 the last 3 weeks, the trends are there.
Okay. Okay. So maybe not an A-rated pick on this over at all, but just in general, Jake, any plays you think are worth targeting? I know we don't necessarily have any spread value, but anything from your personal opinion about this game?
Well, Stephen was saying earlier that if you like Ohio State, it's probably an act now we get it at +3 in some places. The public is on 80%, 87% on Ohio State. And I just think it's because you've seen what has happened without Harbaugh. They're playing not to lose rather than to win. They're not throwing the ball. JJ McCarthy he was a Heisman favorite 3 weeks ago, and he's thrown the ball 15 times the last 2 games combined. And now he's playing against an Ohio State defense that Derek said hasn't allowed more than 17 points in the games. So that's why the public is all over Ohio State.
Okay. Good to know there. Let's go into the bigger picture now. We still like both of these teams to make the playoffs. Before we get into it, so let's bring this in. So right now, Georgia, we have essentially as a lock, almost 95% to make the playoffs. Then Michigan and Ohio State, both up there over 65%. Now without Florida State, not necessarily out of the picture, but probably not our top 3 to be in that 4th spot. We're looking more at Alabama, Oregon, and Washington. Jake, as far as Michigan and Ohio State, give me your lay of the land of how this weekend needs to work out and how that will affect this whole playoff picture for us.
Well, so for Alabama and Oregon, they already have one loss. That's why they have them at 36% because they have to win out. That's why you might see that if you look at the odds, Oregon's odds are a lot better than Washington, but we still have Washington at 40% chance because they have an easier schedule and they're in a head-to-head matchup, it's a lot closer than Vegas has it. We have this game a lot closer.
Sorry.
There you go. Go ahead, Steve.
No, and we just entered the odds before the game and my spreadsheet here. And Oregon, Vegas is convinced that Oregon is much better than Washington, especially when they play each other in a rematch. And it's hard to believe that people just keep penalizing Washington for winning, and winning ugly. So it's Washington's getting a little it's sort of like the Eagles, they can win with their C game. So yeah. In the Sims, like Oregon on DraftKings is -165 to make the playoff, which is extremely high. In comparison, Washington, who beat Oregon, is +155. So whereas we think the Pac-12 championship game will be an Oregon 52 to 48% type split, the odds makers probably see it more like a 67-33 to get those kind of numbers.
Okay, so in a situation maybe where Oregon and Washington win out, they play and Bama wins out. Oregon and Washington play each other in the Pac-12 championship. Do you think it's a better chance Alabama gets in from just winning out and beating Georgia in the SEC, or the Pac-12 champion?
So if Washington wins out, they're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Oregon already has one loss. So if Oregon wins out, Alabama wins out, I think the advantage goes to Alabama because they beat Georgia, who's the #1 team in the country. And the Pac-12 was looking really strong at one point when Colorado was 4-0. But Colorado,
and USC is thinking too. That doesn't help.
USC is thinking. If you look at the games, like of all the teams that they played, they have one win over a team that's currently ranked. So Alabama, even though SC might not be as strong as it's been the last couple of years, that means they beat Georgia. So Alabama would be in, and Georgia would more than likely be in as well. So it probably does knock out one of the Pac-12 teams. And that means FSU's out too, if that happens.
Yeah. So for those wondering about FSU, basically the theory there is they have to win out and look just as good as if Travis was on the field with them doing it, and hope that there's some fallouts or hiccups between Bama, Oregon, and Washington on the way there. So kind of like a Jaden Daniels Heisman situation for Florida State, just hoping on other people's failures right now.
The odds makers do, like DraftKings at least, they definitely think Florida State, I was under the impression, in my opinion, I thought that even a undefeated Florida State, if they weren't super impressive, might be excluded from the playoff. But I would say based on the odds makers saying they're +145 to make it, thinks that they will make it even if they are undefeated ACC champs. But based on the odds of, so they're plus 145 to make it, and then plus 3,000 to win it. So the odds makers are basically telling you, okay, they'll earn it from an undefeated ACC champ, but they got no chance against Georgia, Michigan / Ohio State, whatever, Alabama. So because it's a pretty big drop off. So our sims, we're giving them half as much chance to make it, but only 33% less chance of actually winning it than the odds makers do.
Yeah, part of me wants to see FSU make it just so they lose by 50 to Georgia. I think that line would probably be minus 17. Georgia minus 17.
We're big. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Because a few weeks ago when you were up 7-0 against Georgia, and
sometimes it makes you feel better.
I don't know. The best case scenario is if the Gators beat FSU and knock them out altogether. But part of me wants this because FSU, I don't know.
But then Mackenzie does her weekly spot with Danny Cannell there, and so then she's got to play nice there. So we'll see. We'll see where the allegiances fall.
Yes, lots to unpack here, and it will be interesting to say, just to note, when the college football rankings come out tonight, if Florida somehow stays at number 4.
If Florida stays at 4, and if Washington leaps Florida State, if Washington's 4, Florida State's 5, then that really shows you that they're on the outs. If Florida State stays at 4 and Washington's number 5, that means that they're still getting a pretty solid chance.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good stuff there. Lots to unwind. Seeing some NBA questions in the chat. I know Derek has hit them, but we might as well hit them up here too. LaMelo asking about any value on Orlando tonight. We can hit to the model over there.
Yeah, we do. I think there's also some steam on Orlando. They've been really impressive this year. They're, I think, 10-3 against the spread, 4-1 at home. I've seen some -2s on the board. The consensus is -1.5. The sim has a lean as -3.5. But again, at this point in the year, we are using a lot of last year's data still. So to us to have even 2-point difference in value on the spread, given how relatively few games this year, is a pretty significant move. So I'd be comfortable banking Orlando. And I would jump now if you can get that -20 money line, which they were a few hours ago.
Yeah, so I used OddsJam and have 2 plays in this game. Franz Wagner over 7.5 rebounds and assists, and then Scotty Barnes under 1.5 3-points made. We have them at 1. We have model value on both of those plays. So
yeah, we got 8.7 rebounds and assists for Franz, and just 1 made 3 for Scotty Barnes.
All right, let's move over to the Pacers versus Atlanta tonight. Wenzel has entered the chat. He got them at 251 on DK last night.
Wow.
The over, yeah, that's a good bet. This line's steaming like crazy on the over, justifiably so, because Indiana is averaging, their games are totaling 255 on the road. They're allowing 133. And Atlanta is the 5th highest scoring team in the league right now, averaging 120. So look, the models only has 244 because, again, it's still reflecting last year's stats. I would never bet that under based on how things have been going. But yeah, I like the over at over anything up to 253 probably.
Okay, yeah, Big Cheesy was thinking this was pretty high too, but I guess we like the high total considering things that happened this season and not last season. So as far as NBA right now, whoa, sorry, I'm echoing. The model uses a lot of last season's data. Are the odds makers kind of doing the same thing at this point in the season too?
Yes and no, but I think they do try to capitalize on public narratives and fading them, and trying to manipulate public to here. So I would not be surprised if this game, ends up being a slugfest. Just because, or it would be like the Sacramento game yesterday, which I was feeling so good about, and they were up early, and then they got slaughtered by New Orleans. It's gonna happen. It's NBA betting.
Yeah, one game I want to mention quick, and I'll put it in a banner super quick. Definitely dependent on LeBron and AD's status. So let's play hypothetical here. Say they are both playing. We do have value on the Lakers here.
Yeah, the line, we have it at 13, over 13 if LeBron and AD are playing. Simple because Utah. So we have Utah projected for 110 points. The odds implied total is 115. Utah averages 110 on the road, which is 13 less than they do at home. The Lakers allow 110 at home. So if you see a trend here, 110, 110, 110, it's like I'm not going to overthink it. But, the last time LeBron and AD, I think, were game time decisions and surprisingly played, they got shellacked by Sacramento.
Mhm.
So, but the Lakers are playing good defense at home when those two are playing.
Okay, good stuff there. Let's move to a quick basketball question while I have you here. Jake, you might have been answering it, but Florida State versus Colorado, just seeing if we have any value there.
Yeah, I was in the process of answering the Gonzaga question for Big Cheesy, but I've seen both of these teams play. Gators killed FSU. Colorado's ranked in a lot of places. I'm on KJ Simpson over 14.5 points. I know we don't have any model value there, but he's been on fire lately. Cody Williams is Jalen Williams for OKC's little brother. He's been good. I just think this is a toss-up. I think this is a good spot to hop on a live bet, depending on just how it's going early in the game.
Okay.
I mean, FSU, that under was looking good for 90% of the game yesterday against UNLV, and then the last couple of minutes just changed up real quick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Colorado, they struggle with Richmond. I can see us going either way. I think there's some other bets with better value today.
Looks like FSU was really bad on the road last year.
Yeah, well, it's a neutral site game.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
we love neutral sites as road games since they're away from home. So, and Colorado
was really bad on the road last year.
Yeah.
So,
they weren't as bad as FSU was. 7-10 against the spread versus FSU's 4-10.
All right. Well, good stuff there. I think that's all the questions we have so far. Please feel free to reach out to us on Twitter as well with your questions. I know there is a lot of college basketball tonight, and Jake, I'm sure, has answers for all of it. So that's all the time we have for here today. We will be off tomorrow and probably Thanksgiving as well. So if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to us about them. We do still have the model and still have value on some of them. Steven, anything you want to say?
Oh, I'm going to pour a drink out for, I probably won't pour it out. Pour a sip and then drink the rest. But for our survivor pool, we are one of very few outlets out there that are perfect through 11 weeks. And if not for the tragedy of the Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers injuries is not those teams. I don't give two what's about the Jets or the Bengals. In fact, I hate them both. But we had, before those injuries, we had Burrow this week against Pittsburgh, would have slaughtered them probably, and we would have had Aaron Rodgers versus the Falcons next week. Then followed by the Ravens versus the Rams. So we were just looking golden.
Too good.
Through 14 weeks. And now I've had a pivot. And so, the pivot is not horrible, but I pivoted to Minnesota this week versus Chicago at home. Then Tampa Bay versus Carolina at home. We still got Baltimore, the Rams. Now I have New Orleans versus the Giants in week 15, Seattle at Tennessee, and then week 17 is a big TBD based on who's playing and who's not playing.
Wow.
But yeah, I was like, we were gonna
it was awesome.
Smooth right into it until those injuries.
It was good. And we'll touch on it later in the week possibly too as well. But for now, again, probably won't be on tomorrow. Probably have some picks we can give out on Twitter on Thursday. I know that's a big NFL day, so we don't want to completely ignore that. So stay tuned, stay posted on our Twitters. We'll let you know what we can do for you guys. But with that, good luck. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we will see you Friday.